I do not like a great many things about it now. People should be on time, and they should know their lines, and I find people that do not do this. They do not come. They don't care.
She's talking about Dick York.
And I finally said to him, I'm done.
Agnes Moorehead did not like Dick Sargent at all. Even made him cry on the set because she was so mean to him.
What happened was Dick Sargent was being threatened with being outed in one of the magazines.
There was one explosion that we had to do one afternoon, and we were working in our kitchen here on the set, which is fairly confined. And the dress that I had on just went right and just stuck to me, you know.
Did you ever get to see Elizabeth Montgomery after that day that you left the set?
No, not in person. I called her just a couple of weeks ago, and she was busy or out of town or something like that.
Dick York, Liz can't stand it.
Making Bewitched was a nightmare. Harsh, I know, but the very real, sad reality is this TV show that excellently portrayed love, devotion, and magic was a nightmare to work on. How do we know this? Well, for starters, the cast of Bewitched very rarely ever talked about their experience of being on the show. If there was a very few times, take a look.
The final things on the set, there's a lot of sadness connected with anything like that, but everybody realizes it. My God, if an actor comes in and you see, that's what the people out here don't know about. The different things that actors have to put up with on the set, because they do love each other and we all cling together like a bunch of babies. You still
Bewitched, a great comedy, and really it has endured. What was the appeal?
I think we made it as honest as possible. I think the writers that we used were as good as possible. The cast was extraordinary. I mean, my gosh, what a cast we had. I mean, really super, super people. Morris Evans, Agnes Moorehead, golly, Marion Lorne, Paul Lind, and I was never bored on the set. Not 1 minute for 8 years was I bored. Does that sound so disgustingly Pollyanna you can hardly stand it?
No, it doesn't.
Because it's not. It was like going to college for 8 years and taking an in-depth course in what you really wanted to do. So it was very, very exciting for me. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff. A lot.
Do you get upset when people ask you to do the nose thing?
No, not really. It's just so crazy. But I'm not going to do it for you, so there.
I'm not going to do it for you. And that was the response Liz always gave. Or was it? Hang on, because we have a surprise for you at the end. And then there's Dick's story. To hear him talk about it, he had a bad fall, a bad seizure, was taken to the hospital, and made the decision himself to leave the show. But is that true? More to come on that later as well. Watching those clips side by side might make you say, yes, they did talk about it a lot, but actually, they very rarely did. They didn't want to. You can't help but ask yourself why. Shows of the same period, like Star Trek, I Love Lucy, and many others, have hours of interviews of the cast and crew talking about their shows. But not here. However, very recently, we have unearthed 2 interviews in particular where guards were let down, and we get a glimpse of the goings-on behind the scenes.
You feel that you have now been typecast after 4 years? Oh, no. No, I don't think so.
The actresses have been getting nowadays, do you go along with this sort of thing?
Showing them questions? The same tried questions, but then...
These interviews were done on the set of Bewitched during the production of this episode of Season 4. Here, in the show clip, you can see their clothes in color, but these interviews are shot in black and white during breaks of shooting.
What the actors and actresses are like off camera.
No, I don't believe in that at all.
Why?
I've never I suppose typecasting is something that really, you think of a certain type of actress for a certain type of part. I don't really think you're No, I don't, is the answer to that question.
Additionally, we'll also play clips of interviews that some have seen before about what it was really like behind the scenes. I want to jump right in with both feet with one of those recently unearthed black and white film clips. This is an interview conducted by a local San Jose TV station that was amazingly allowed on the set to interview both Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, and Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora. We've known over the years that Agnes was tough. She was a diva, that she had a long list of things she would and would not do. Up until now, we've only had other people talking about her attitude. Now you're going to see it for yourself. Prepare yourself. It's a bit shocking. You're about to see a bitter, full of attitude Agnes, amongst other things, seriously talking negative about her fellow actors in television and more.
But the in-depth interviews that the actresses have been getting nowadays, do you go along with this sort of thing?
Showing them questions?
The same trite questions, but then to go backstage and take pictures of what the actors and actresses are like off camera.
No, I don't believe in that at all.
Why?
Because I think that breaks the illusion, and I don't think the audience should know anything about the inside workings of either a play or television or radio. That is the actor's kingdom, and they are the ones that have to create the illusion. And if they create it well enough, and if it is a very beautiful thing, and then people will buy tickets. I sometimes think that when they see it, they are disillusioned, and they don't particularly care about it. It's like someone going into a restaurant and saying, well, I must see the kitchen. And they go into a kitchen and they look at it, and probably they don't want to eat the dish that they thought was so marvelous on someone else's table. I don't believe in this. I think this is as I said, the actor's kingdom, and I think they're the ones that rule.
Because I've gone, there is a time element that is so definite in television. Do you prefer that to stage?
You mean the time element? No, I do not.
Yeah.
I do not. I don't like to be hampered by knowing that great pressure of time over me. After all, in the theater you get 5 weeks of rehearsal or 4 weeks of rehearsal in which to polish that one performance. In television you do not. You have to do it immediately.
And there's always that.
All of these, the bit of burning the midnight oil has to be done at night or in your spare time. That's the only time that you have in preparation, because there's very, very little time to rehearse.
What about the discipline in theater and in television now as compared to what it was a few years ago?
It's very careless.
In which way?
Well, I don't think that they love the theater enough, and I don't think they love their work enough. I don't think they're dedicated. There are very, very few people who are dedicated to this profession. It's one of the reasons that there's, it seems like anyone can get in it as long as they look physically right, but they don't stay in it very long unless they are dedicated to it. They must love what they're doing, and I find very few people who love it.
You obviously do.
Well,
you've made it your life.
Yes, I do not like a great many things about it now, but I am in it. Well, no, that doesn't make any difference about that. I mean, it's the business as a whole. Generally, I think there's a great deal of carelessness about it. There's a great deal of undisciplined kind of effort. For instance, people should be on time and they should know their lines. And I find people that do not do this. They do not come. They don't care. In the theater, I've waited for them 25 minutes. Well, when I was starting in the theater, I couldn't wait till I was in the theater. Couldn't wait for it. Wait and watch and learn, and couldn't wait till I get up there on the stage. Now, with my students, of course, I hammer it into them, but many, many times I will sit there and the stage is vacant. I say, well, now, all right, I haven't paid my tickets to see a vacant stage. Somebody has to get out there and do something.
Right, and you say you have a school?
Well, I have a private school. I have a private class of about 28, and I have 5 in staff who teach. I don't have anything, I don't get anything from it because I just give it my time. Only because I want young, disciplined actors who can manipulate themselves, both on stage and on a set, on a film set.
Do you ever have to prepare yourself for a role?
In what way?
Well, you come on as Endora now. Do you ever have to get yourself in the mood?
Never. Never. I yield to it. I know the character, yield to it, and play it. And I have done all of that when I'm at home thinking of how I'm going to do it and how she looked. At the very beginning, when I took the pilot, then is when I started to create the role of Endora. I know the role of Endora. I know how she reacts. I don't have to get into a great kind of mood about it. I don't have to take 25 minutes to find out whether I'm Endora or not.
They say Marilyn Monroe used to.
It seems all the previous stories are true about her attitude and difficulty. I think it's undeniable that when she talks about actors not knowing their lines, coming in late and not even showing up, she's talking about Dick York, who was fired by show executive producer Bill Asher for his constant substance abuse. We also know that producers on this show came through a revolving door that typically be there for about a year and were either fired or just quit because they, quote, couldn't take it anymore. Like this interview, where show producer Bill Froeg, who had a long, illustrious career producing hit television shows, says he just had to get out of there.
How long were you with it?
A year. And I finally said to them, I'm done.
Even before that portion of the interview, he goes on to speak of the unspeakable, the fact that Liz Montgomery hated Dick York.
You also were involved in Bewitched.
Yeah, that was an odd one. Having produced Gilligan's Island, which had been an immediate hit, to no surprise, I got a call from Bill Asher, who was the producer of Bewitched, and who was the husband of Elizabeth Montgomery. And he said, would you come meet me? I said, sure. So I went over. He said, I'm producing and directing some of the shows, but I'm not going to produce it anymore. I'd like you to produce it. I said, really? He said, sure, come on over. The seat is yours. So I called my agent. They confirmed the deal. It was the same $1,000 a week and a week to week. And so, I mean, 1 year, so I went. First meeting, I was going to tell you, the first meeting I'm privy to is with Asher, Harry Ackerman, and that's it, just the four of us. And the first thing Liz was there. And the first thing out of Liz's mouth is, we've got to get rid of him. Now, I'm brand new, and I'm wondering, who the hell is him? I have no idea. And the whole thing went, we got to get rid of him. Liz was adamant. So the meeting's over, and I finally had to say to Bill, who is him? He said, Dick York. Liz can't stand him. Now, what I think the truth was, nobody will know, but I think Dick was madly in love with Liz. When off camera, he would just lie there. He had to lie on a backboard. He'd hurt his back in a Jeep accident. And he would just lie there looking at her like longingly. It was pretty clear he was very smitten. And it was equally clear she couldn't stand him because of that. That was the backstory I walked into. Which, all right, everything has a backstory.
And how long were you with it?
A year. And I finally said to them, I'm done.
Dick York was replaced by Dick Sargent. It has been widely known that Agnes Moorehead did not like Dick Sargent at all. Even made him cry on the set because she was so mean to him. And in his own words, Dick had a huge secret he was hiding from the public. He was gay. The cast and crew knew. The general public did not. Until a magazine actually called him and threatened to out him.
What happened was Dick Sargent, who had gone from being on Broadside and then had done Bewitched and was quite a well-known popular actor, was being threatened with being outed in one of the magazines. Because there were a number of publications in the gay community that were always very upset at people who didn't come out. And so they would threaten to out people. And Dick was just beside himself. So because we'd been friends all the way back since Broadside, he called and asked me what I thought he should do, because I was quite successfully out of the closet. And I said, you have to really come out. And he said, I can't do that. Will you do it with me? And I said, of course. I mean, I've done everything but take a sign on Sunset Boulevard. Everybody knows, especially after, the People magazine was about to talk about me again. So we did a rally at the Gay and Lesbian Center in Los Angeles, which was a day when Governor Wilson had vetoed one of the bills that would protect gay people at work from discrimination. He had vetoed the bill. There were large demonstrations. And so there was a rally at the center. And I said, Dick, you should just come and you should speak about why it's important to be out at work and not to be fired for being out at work. What could be more perfect? And I'll be standing right there with you. They all know I'm gay, so now they're going to know you're gay. So he did. And there was immediate interest in some of the talk shows, the morning ones. Good Morning America wanted us to be on, and Geraldo wanted us to be on. And so Dick said, I'll do it if you'll do it with me. And I said, well, I don't want to do Geraldo. I think that's demeaning. And he said, no, that's just exactly the audience we have to talk to. So I said, okay, I'll do whatever you need me to do. So we went on Good Morning America, and we went on Geraldo. Well, it was we were on it simply so that Dick could say why he had come out. And I talked about how scary it was to be in the industry and to worry every minute that you were going to be outed, to always be looking over your shoulder.
There are so many other stories of drama after drama happening behind the scenes before and after the run of Bewitched. Gladys Kravitz, number 1, played by Alice Pierce, secretly had cancer and died after season 2 and had to be recast. Her replacement, Sandra Gold, didn't like her TV husband, Ed Tobias, saying he was too old for her. Louise Tate, number 1, played by Irene Vernon, was fired after 2 seasons because of her friendship with the producer who hired her in season 1, who was also fired because he had a volatile temper, and from day 1 on the set created an atmosphere of misery and a nightmare work environment. The sad reality is this beloved show was a horrible place to work. Long after the show was over, cast members dispersed and never talked to each other, especially Dick York and Elizabeth Montgomery.
But in 1970, Dick's health completely fell apart, and he had to leave the set in the middle of a scene. Lying on the floor of the studio as he waited for an ambulance, he knew he would never return.
And to see this crowd of people caring so much about me, I knew I couldn't inflict that pain on them anymore.
Dick, was it tough for you to leave the set of Bewitched that last day when you knew your health wasn't going to carry on any longer?
That was the worst day of my life because I thought I'd failed everybody. It was the only thing that I ever started that I didn't finish. I didn't finish that show. So I felt guilty, and I felt embarrassed, and I felt that I had let everybody down.
Did you ever get to see Elizabeth Montgomery after that day that you left the set?
No, not in person. I called her just a couple of weeks ago, and she was busy or out of town or something like that.
Even though interviews with Dick York could likely be counted on one hand, his story was always the same. He made the decision to leave the show. But the reality is that is not true. What really happened was after that seizure on the set, and after that trip to the hospital, show producer Bill Asher went to his hospital room and told him it can't go on. The addiction to pain pills, in addition to regular substance abuse, chronic tardiness to the set, and chronic simply not showing up, left Bill no choice. Bill says he fired him as he lay in his hospital bed. But now the real drama begins. What happens next? What will the show do about Darren? Several ideas were tossed around. Do they come up with a storyline to explain his permanent departure and absence? Or maybe just have him always out of town? Or maybe recast the role? And of course, that's exactly what they did. But it did not go well. Within the first showing of Dick Sargent's episode, ratings dropped 13 points in 1 week. It is very sad to piece the parts of the hidden puzzle together to learn this beloved show, beloved to this day, was not beloved by the cast itself. Elizabeth Montgomery did very few interviews in her lifetime and only talked about Bewitched 1 or 2 times, and even then very briefly. However, there is this one new one that has also been unearthed, also during that season 4 visit to the set by the same local San Jose television station. This one isn't nearly as caustic as the Agnes Moorehead interview, but still awkward, and most importantly, rare. It's the only time we know of that exists where Elizabeth Montgomery talks about playing Samantha Stevens on Bewitched at length. Watch.
You feel that you have now been typecast after 4 years?
Oh, no. No, I don't think so. I've never quite, I suppose typecasting is something that really, you think of a certain type of actress for a certain type of part. I don't really think you're, no, I don't, is the answer to that question. This is something that I have really enjoyed doing. And the fact that this is its 4th year is even more fun than it was last year, the year before, or the year before that. I haven't gotten the least bit bored with it.
I used to see so many of your productions on live television when you were with your father.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they were very interesting. Do you like live television?
I love it. I think it is probably the most terrifying medium in the world. I can't tell you how often when they say 30 seconds to air, I think to myself, oh, what am I doing here? And I wish I could just, set something on fire or go through the floor, anything, because it is terrifying. You've got one shot at it, and that's it. And being live, you never know what's going to go wrong. I spent one scene holding up a set because it had fallen down one afternoon, trying to look casual. But it's fun. It really is. It's great fun.
With the television, you ever had any experiences, I mean on film, on tape, experiences that were...
You were right first time. It is film.
It is film?
Yeah.
That were sort of terrifying, other than the fact that you had to hold up scenery on live. Any funny experiences?
I guess that's kind of par for the course. No, there was one explosion that we had to do one afternoon, and we were working in our kitchen here on the set, which is fairly confined, and it's near a back wall, so all the heat, kind of brings everything in like this. And it had not been tried in that closest space before, and I had to stand in the middle while this thing went all the way around me like this, the smoke and the flames. And I must say it got a little terrifying, because I had not realized how hot it was going to be, or how high the flame and the smoke was going to go. And it was interesting, to say the least. But all of a sudden, there was no way to breathe, and it was terribly hot, and the dress that I had on just went right and just stuck to me, Now, had it been any hotter, I don't know whether it would have melted or not, but Marlo Newkirk, who was our special effects man, who is really, he's incredible. He said, what do you think? He said to somebody else on the set, he said, I was really fairly nervous. And I said, why? And he said, because I had enough stuff in there to blow all the way to Denver. Well, it's a good thing they didn't tell me this before, but it burned all the hair off my arms, and my hair was all singed. It was very warm, but it was fun. And now that you're used to it, it doesn't bother you so much.
There's never any squabbles on any of the sets that you have to work on. I understand this is one of the nicest sets to work on.
I think so. This crew makes it a pleasure to come to work every morning. So, when people say, aren't you getting tired of it? You have to say no, primarily because you don't get tired of good friends. And that's...
What type of role do you enjoy playing the most?
Anything that's good and that I feel that I might in my own way be able to contribute a little something to, and that an audience would enjoy. Samantha, I love playing her. There had been series offered to me before that I had turned down, not for any, reason about I didn't want to be overexposed or anything like that, but it's very hard to find a character that you feel you would enjoy playing for, hopefully, an extended period of time. Before I started the series, I would pick different parts because of, the fun involved, and maybe a Western because I love to ride and be outdoors. So I was very lucky that I didn't really have to work, and I really thank my lucky stars for that, because it's helped. I am not riddled with ambition, so I don't feel that I have to keep working like crazy all the time.
There's no wolf.
No, I do it because I enjoy it.
Do you have to prepare you? Do you have any other outside interests other than acting? I know you have a lovely family.
Oh, yes. Well, of course, that's one of my main outside interests.
Your oldest one is what, 2, 3?
Three
now?
Just 3, yes. And the little one will be 2 October 5th. I
What
say
is-
little one, he's like this. He's marvelous. Well, my husband, who, is producer and director of Bewitched, regular director on Bewitched. So that takes up a lot of time, which is fun, but we are avid sports fans and play tennis and golf, and I paint.
Have you sold any of your paintings or just for pleasure?
Not really. I draw and things like that. No, I haven't sold it.
What do your little guys think about Mommy being on?
Well, they're
what do
too
they-
little to realize it. Willie, the oldest one, I've kept him up a couple of times, and he says, when you say, who's that? He says, that's Mommy. And then the first time we did it, he looked up at me and he said, no, that's not Mommy. You, Mommy. He said, that's funny, lady. And I thought, well, I hope that's a review. I was very pleased about it.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Funny lady, lovely lady. I think most would agree, a much-loved actress. I'll step into the realm of my personal opinion for a moment here to say those 8 years of creating Bewitched had to be so difficult for her. Imagine the lead in a hit TV show where everything I just mentioned was constantly going on around you. A substance-abusing co-star husband, an attitude-ridden co-star mother, hirings, firings, temper tantrums, and so many other negatives that seem to have plagued the behind-the-scenes of Bewitched. But the reality is, it was Liz herself who called it quits after 8 years. She plain and simple could not go on. But let's end on the glass half full. She did go on, bearing it for 8 years, and now decades later, we are still enjoying the magical world of Bewitched. And wanted to end on a positive note, and dare I say, a heartwarming note. While it was widely known that Liz wouldn't honor requests to twitch her nose when people asked, likely wanting to keep Bewitched in her past, during this black and white film interview, she did at the very end. And I think you'll enjoy a quick little peek. Thanks for watching. On a side note, also, once a week, we'll be posting more Bewitched behind-the-scenes info in a series called Bewitched Chat, a more casual talk about each episode behind the scenes. Subscribe and like to follow and know when each post comes up each week. And here we end on that brief but memorable time when Elizabeth Montgomery did twitch on request.
Would you just twitch your nose and make me disappear now? Oh!